You know what time it is? It's your boy Matt Mills, the host with the most. Never need to brag, no boast. All I do is give a toast to real folks. We done paved the way in a real way. Was plays to play. I'm parlay. So now, there's a lot of bullshit going on on these airwaves, on the internet, social media, involving Kanye and Kanye. You know what I'm saying? And we gotta really put it all into perspective. Because for the fact of the matter, I don't know how Jewish people don't look at blacks as Jews because they feel like, I don't know, they're like the original people. Well, I don't know, something like that, because they're the first religion, right? So we go by the Old Testament. Why can't Jews be? Why can't blacks be Jewish? I need to know that. I need to get the whole spectrum of the reason why they say that. So I got a little back and forth between Tariq, Nasheed, and the caller. We're gonna chop it up and dissect it because they saying a lot. But just because you say a lot, it's just a lot. You know what I'm saying? Shit is real. And it's simple. You just gotta look at it for what it is, not what you think it might be. So let's chop it up. Let's see what's really good.
Let me get some more people in here. Let's get Peter in here. Peter, I don't know why Peter has the Hitler thing.
Y'all can hear it?
Peter, hop on, brother. Hop on, Peter.
Oh, well, I just wanted to jump in this. I was able to partake in his last two debates and this whole thing that unfolded with Islam earlier today. And wanting that to be a pretty productive conversation. But one of the topics that I wanted to broach and maybe pick your brain about was just sort of the anti-Semitism that I've experienced. Someone who's Jewish jumping in these spaces and trying to have a good faith, conversation. It seems like, yes, Islam does get attacked, but not nearly as much as Judaism does. I get worse treatment in the FBA space than I do, in a space with white nationalists. And I don't know exactly why.
Really? How so? Okay, so how do Foundation of Black Americans treat you worse?
So for instance, we were trying to have a good faith conversation, and one day I was going back and forth, and in the comments, I was getting tagged in these articles of Hasidic rabbis giving herpes to children, during the performance of a circumcision. That, oh, this is what you people do. All the slave ship owners were Jewish, and just things that are, untrue. Because the whole thing with the circumcision thing, that was an isolated incident that happened amongst Hasidic Jews. Most Jews are not Hasidic. They're a tiny minority of Jewish people. No one really practices that type of circumcision, and mainstream secular Jews and even Orthodox Jews have come out against that sort of stuff. So, trying to say, hey, this is normal, this is what everyone does, it creates this kind of narrative, these people are just disgusting, doing these kind of evil things. When in reality, that just doesn't reflect, what's really going on.
Okay, so because you had a conversation with like one or two people, you're equating that with Black people.
No, I'm talking about
are more anti-Semitic
Black American spaces, and I've been in tons of them, and most of these people, and like Lonnie knows me, and so does Sir Major, and I jump into a lot of these big spaces and sort of have these conversations, and it always just kind of turns into this diatribe of, oh, you're shutting down Kanye West, and Kylie Irving, and Jews control the media, and Jews control this and that, and they're against Black people, and it's the same thing that sort of white nationalists do at the end of the day, and I have some opinions that they might not agree with. I think that Jewish people should be able to, have a say in, what a lot of these Black celebrities that are pushing these anti-Semitic narratives are saying. I think that Jews should be able to step in to stop this because there are real ramifications, of this sort of rhetoric in society. And, Lonnie didn't like the fact that I brought up the Charleston shooting, the massacre that happened, but, that's a result of, what happens when you get this white nationalist rhetoric that spreads. You get some like, Dylan Roof who goes and shoots people, but she forgot to mention that we had 5 synagogues that have been shot up since then in the country. One where you had over 20 people that were murdered in cold blood in Pittsburgh.
But these were white supremacists doing this. What did that have to do with black people?
It has to do with the promotion of anti-Semitic rhetoric. So,
but they're not. So are you saying that? Wait, stop. Because are you saying that white nationalists are doing it because of black people being anti-Semitic?
Well, they're all gloating. I mean, all the white nationalists, like Nick Fuentes is a white nationalist. He's bed in bed with Kanye West. And Kanye West is he is black, whether you like it or not. He has one of the biggest platforms. He might not be popular in the black community, but
no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He's just a popular black person. He doesn't have a big platform. Black people are not following Kanye. But black people are not following.
So why is it that when I go in these FBA spaces, they're parroting the same talking points that Kanye West is discussing in the media? Like, if that's not the case, is there a disconnect there? Because they might, say, oh, I don't like Kanye personally because, the White Lives Matter shirt, his antics and Trump and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, they're saying the exact same stuff when it comes to, anti-Semitism or quote unquote Jewish power.
Okay, but the people who's actually committing these actionable offenses, you're not in their rooms. Black people are not shooting up synagogues. How come you're not in the white nationalist rooms? The people who are really doing stuff.
Both of them. And what I
really, which ones?
Well, no, I mean, you can ask. I mean, you can talk to some of these people that run these spaces. Don't see me jumping into these white nationalist spaces, and so that's just. I don't think that reflects reality. And I asked wanting to disavow anti-Semitism, and she did. But then when I tried to get Surmaid and these other people to do it, they laugh at you. But black people, especially people who come to
disavow.
I mean, you should disavow anti-Semitism. You have the biggest platform. I mean, and a lot of your followers, whether you like it or not, are people that call themselves publicly FBA people, are espousing anti-Semitic rhetoric. So why don't you take this moment now to disavow anti-Semitism?
But black people, you haven't shown where black people are practicing anti-Semitism and harming Jewish people.
I just gave you numerous examples of it.
No, you just said Kanye and some people in some rooms. I'm talking about.
You see how Tariq is slowing down the conversation and he's easily breaking down his talking points. The Jewish dude is using big words all out of context, and then he wants to make it seem like he's using his intellectual wordplay to make Tariq say what he wants him to say. But that's juvenile. That's child's play, Just come with some actual information and something that you want to convey, because it's like at this point we're just beating a dead horse. No, we're not being anti-Semitic. Y'all are jumping the gun. We're not having a deep, honest conversation because everybody's pointing the finger and thinking that we're saying the worst things when we're just looking at the whole playing field and we're judging it by who's running the show at the top. So all this rhetoric and talking about Tariq is not denouncing. People say saying anti-Semitism. You can't wrong people for getting on certain things when they don't really know all the information. The same way Jewish people sometimes look at black folks as thugs and all this extra stuff. You have to understand from our perspective. So the same way that there's a stereotype about y'all want us to see it from y'all perspective. It gotta be vice versa, or else that's what you call I'm white and I say so. And that's the type of thing that you don't want. You want an honest and free-flowing conversation of ideas that could be lead to a solution of greater good on both parts because you both have a common enemy, which is white supremacy. So how can we bridge the gap, but at the same time make the people who are practicing anti-black racism on a grander scale through osmosis? Can they really come to terms with the fact that, maybe they are being a little anti-black and stereotypical, but at the same time, you can't wag the finger at the people that see what's going on and want to call it out for what it is. 'Cause if it's not that, then what's up with the like pretty much I feel like no culture that's not black actually embraces black. So it's hard to really say that y'all support. I know y'all was in the civil rights movement. A lot of whites were in the civil rights movement too, helping out. So y'all just can't take that and run with it. It has to be equal. It has to be an equal amount of support because black people really started the civil rights movement for themselves, but ultimately we realized that everybody that's a minority around the world is being oppressed by whites. That's why we said black power to black people, red power to red people, white power to white people, all power to the people. So when we say all power to the people, it means all power to all diverse members of society. At the same time, we want to end this systematic racism that's keeping us at the lowest level of the totem pole. So, with that being said, you can't look down on us when we're just looking for the truth. You have to educate and show us how much y'all don't really endorse white supremacy by condemning it and educating us on how we can further the cause of eradicating it by not speaking about no by speaking against um, certain people of a certain demographic that do support it and don't want to see any radical change being displayed. So it's like it's not easy, but it's simple. It's simple. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you gotta destroy or rebuild because united we ball, divided we fall. You gotta understand that the world's not gonna continue with this blatant racism against blacks. We're gonna continue to fight it until the end of time. And then y'all gonna push back because y'all don't want to see us up. You think the world is running at its best possible level right now with everything that's going on? Scarcity, more viruses that y'all reviving, more bullshit that y'all saying about climate change and this and that. Maybe it's time for y'all to, you know, relinquish that old thought that racism, white supremacy is the way to go. I don't know. Maybe that should be the answer.
Conspiracy theories is
So let's continue.
Every single.
What did Kyrie ever do
He
anti-Semitic?
shared a movie that has anti-Semitic conspiracy theories in it.
The History Channel does the same thing. So why are you not condemning them for doing that?
Why am I not condemning the History Channel for sharing?
Yeah,
what
they
anti-Semitic
promote
conspiracy theories is the History Channel sharing?
They promote Hitler stuff all the time.
They promote Hitler stuff all the time. I haven't seen any.
Yeah, they show movies about Hitler.
Promoting.
They show movies about. Promote the movies about Hitler and documentaries about Hitler all the time.
But yeah, they discuss World War II all the time. But they're certainly not promoting Hitler or the Holocaust. I mean, I would be.
Well, they promote.
I mean, if there is, then.
Okay, so when blacks are talking about them being Jews, how is that promoting the Holocaust? You see the difference? You see the dynamic? So y'all trying to make black folks into Hitler? Is that what y'all trying to do? Because as I check, the History Channel does have a lot of Nazi rhetoric on their channel. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they talk about the war and everything like that, but they also emphasize what Germany did. You know, I mean, you shouldn't forget what you should always remember what the U.S. did to blacks and what France and England did to Africa. You know what I'm saying? Why is that not being talked about every day on the History Channel? Damn near. Y'all ain't got too much history on it, or it didn't happen in recent history. Well, if y'all mad about 5 million people being killed in World War II, that should be equally as mad about the atrocities that happened to black folks during chattel slavery, which was a war on black folk into a very big. Would that have the same effect? Or wouldn't y'all want to educate people on that just as much as you educate people on condemning the Nazi Party? I don't know. Like my brother Cross says, I'm just black and dumb. I'm just trying to figure this shit out. You dig?
You know, if you want to send me an example or
they promote movies. Slow down. They promote documentaries with Hitler all the time. They promote the documentaries.
Yeah, but oftentimes, I mean, from what I've seen on the History Channel, those are documentaries that are critical of what the Nazis did, which is a good thing. People should know what happened in the Holocaust. But you can't equate that with someone sharing a conspiratorial, documentary saying that like Jews are some shadowy group behind all these things, and Jews and white people are the same, which they're not, religiously or
well, Kyrie didn't give an opinion one way or another. He just shared a documentary, just like the History Channel does. He didn't co-sign, say that this was right or wrong. He just shared it. So what was different from him in the History Channel?
Sharing it, like if I were to share like the greatest story never told,
to learn what people are saying out there, just like the History Channel. What's the point of them?
Because it's misinformation. It's anti-Semitic misinformation. There's nothing substantiated in that documentary. It's just filled with anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. So he obviously knows the.
It's not. No. I watched a little bit of it, and it wasn't filled with anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. It wasn't.
Well, I would.
It wasn't.
I mean, we can debate about.
It just wasn't.
Well,
It wasn't. Just like you said, Kyrie Irving was anti-Semitic. Just like you said, Kyrie Irving was anti-Semitic, and he wasn't.
He's sharing.
Now Kanye, yeah, that was anti-Semitic. What Kanye did, I don't co-sign what Kanye did at all. That was wrong. Saying I'm gonna go DEFCON 3 on the Jews. No, that's not cool.
Yeah, but
Kanye is a bipolar.
Hold on, Tariq. I mean, I go into these FBA spaces, and every single time I go in there, it's automatically it's anti-Semitic rhetoric. It is rampant. And I mean, you might not see it because people are a little bit more tame. You know, when they're talking here, they want to be articulate. It's a bigger audience. You got 800 people here. But when it comes down to it, and you get into the actual trenches here, there's a ton of anti-Semitism. I could point out a myriad of accounts. I'm getting tagged in anti-Semitic posts right now. I have
show me.
So why did y'all take away $1.7 billion from Kanye? Because y'all wanted to show how tough you are. So don't get mad when you get a little pushback. Well, look what y'all doing to Kyrie. Of course, black folks are going to say some stuff. Just like you hitting somebody over the head and be like, yo, don't say nothing about my people. And keep bashing them over there and say, don't say nothing about my people. Oh, you said a little something about my people? Let me not educate you. Let me just bash you over the head again. Of course they're going to retaliate. Good or bad, right or wrong. That's just the nature of people. Now you're telling me that Jewish people can't do no wrong? And all they do is help? Well, I feel like I could say the same about my folks, because despite everything that we went through, we came out pretty good. I mean, what if y'all went through 400 years of chattel slavery? How would y'all turn out?
Show me anti-Semitism from black people that's beyond them just
talking. Right now is at the height of American slavery, 78% of slavery.
Slow down. Show me some anti-Semitism from black people beyond them just saying something you don't like.
Well, you certainly don't believe that 78% of slave owners were Jewish now, do you?
No, I don't. But there were Jewish slave owners. You do acknowledge that, right?
There were. Just like there were white ones, but they were a minority. You know.
What do you mean a minority? What do you mean?
If 78% of Jews were slave owners, then
Let's get off the 78%. No, stop.
Who said 78% of Jews are slave owners?
Let's get off the 78% thing. We don't have to throw a percentage out there. But
everybody knows that's fake.
There were Jewish slaves.
Yes, there's three of them.
That's a straw man argument
that are documented owning slaves.
Name them.
I could Google them right now, but from what I understand, there are three of them.
Google them. Google. Let me hear this, because what you said is emphatically false.
If I Google it, it's not even going to show anything.
Right, from 78% to 3 Jews.
Jewish people who own slaves.
To sit here and say there were 3 Jewish slaves.
That's what I read on there. That there was 3 actual documented Jewish slave owners. And I'm talking about people that actually owned agricultural slaves. I'm sure that you could find an instance of
agricultural slaves.
Had 1 slave or 2 slaves that helped.
Oh, good. Please don't try to move the goalposts. Please don't try to move the goalposts. Are you going to sit here and talk about anti-Semitism and then sit here and do what's the equivalent of Holocaust denying saying that there were only
a Holocaust? That is so anti-Semitic. You're talking about the systematic genocide of 6 million.
Sitting here saying that there were only 3 Jewish slave owners, that's disrespectful, and that's historically completely inaccurate, and you know that. So denying that the anti-Black racists within white Jewish society practice anti-Black racism, that's like people denying the Holocaust. So you can't sit here and deny and get mad at one group who you allegedly say denied the Holocaust, and then you deny another Holocaust. Holocaust.
Right.
You understand?
Well, but you're denying
Am I
the
right?
Holocaust by equating
Is he
it
right?
to something
No, I'm
like
not.
that. That
No,
is,
no,
yeah,
no,
it's
no.
because
How am I
you're
denying the
cheapening it.
Holocaust?
You're using the Holocaust like the word as a verb. You're talking about the
No.
systemic genocide of 6 million people simply because of the fact of their ethnicity and religion.
And you're sitting here pretending that the anti-black white supremacists within Jewish society did not exist by saying only 3 participated
There
in the
was a
slave.
small majority of them at the time.
But to say that that's so disrespectful,
A small
that's
majority.
Do you think
anti-black
that Jews have
racism.
reconciled with their past along with the slavery? Do you think that Jews have made up for that, for their wrongs and their misgivings?
To what, against black people?
Yes.
How?
Well, let's look at the relationship between Jewish, influence within, the civil rights movement. I mean, we've been hand in hand trying to deal with white supremacy and, and racism. So I don't understand, the sort of,
Really?
well, I mean, what do
Really?
you mean, really?
What are you talking about, sir?
Jewish people have had a hand in hand within the civil rights movement. Jewish people, especially secular Jewish people like myself, have been at the forefront of promoting equity and diversity and in challenging white supremacy. There has been no group that has challenged white supremacy, especially white Anglo-Saxon Protestant power in this country. The only power block of any sort of significance that's actually limited white Anglo-Saxon power in this country has been Jews and Jewish influence within this country. And if it wasn't for Jews and Jewish influence, we'd still be living in Jim Crow. And that is a fact. That is an undeniable fact.
How? Prove it. I'm asking you, you're just saying so. Man, you said so much. Let me give me a sip of water. We're going to be here for a minute. I want to hear this. How did y'all do that?
Where exactly would you like to start?
Let's start, hell, the Jim Crow era. When did you stop white supremacy? Well, hell, let's go to slavery. Since you said that there were only 3 slave owners.
Oh, well, I mean, we can talk about that. I mean, let's look at all.
Let's get into. Let's talk
to the civil rights movement.
Okay, let's go all the way. Let's take it all the way back. Let's move from slavery to the civil rights movement. If you say that you stop white supremacy, the second in command with the Confederacy was Judah P. Benjamin, who was a major slave owner down in New Orleans. He was Jewish.
He wasn't even a practicing Jew.
Stop it. Yes, he was. Why would you tell that lie? Yes, he was.
No, I don't believe that he was a practicing.
Yes, he was. That's why they do. He was Jewish. He let them know he was a practicing Jewish person. Yes, he was. So you have to practice it in order to be it? What are you saying?
Well, yes and no. I mean, that's a complicated
No.
question.
What do you mean yes and no? No, what do you mean yes and no? Because you were like, Jews ain't white and all of that stuff. So what are you talking about? Either are you ethnically Jewish or is it a religion? What are you talking about?
There's both, right? So there is an ethnic component to it. And I think that's where, like, Wani and I were talking about this earlier, where the whole Black Israelite thing gets mixed up, where you have a lot of Black Americans that purport to be Black Israelites because of one particular tribe that existed in Africa that could trace their lineage and their blood back.
Okay.
And so we've delved into this. I mean,
let's delve into it now because we got a lot to talk about. Okay, so what makes a white person Jewish?
What makes a white person Jewish? Well, I'm of the belief that there's an ethnic component associated with Judaism. We are a matriarchal religion that's passed down genetically. You can convert to Judaism. It takes 3 years to do so, but I'm not a huge fan of that. That's more of something that Christians kind of came up with. Whereas Jews is something we've tried to.
So how did Jews become what?
The ethnic side of who we are.
Oh my goodness, you all over the place. Black people are. Why is it a problem when Black people claim a Jewish lineage?
If they do have a Jewish lineage, there is not a problem with that. The problem is that most of these Black Hebrew Israelites in the United States cannot trace their lineage back to that actual tribe in Africa. Which Wani can jump in and well, Wani, you have a mic right now. You can. I don't remember the exact name of the tribe, but I remember you vividly bringing up this point not more than 90 minutes ago when we were in a space together.
But the Black people over in Israel, they can trace their stuff back and they get discriminated against by the white Jews. So what's going on with that?
Well, what specific? What I mean, what are you talking about specifically? There was one shooting.
What do you mean specifically? No,
well, what specifically do you mean they're discriminated against? I mean, give me a specific instance, right?
Sir, they were over there sterilizing black women who were Jewish over there. I mean, the list goes on and on. Brutalizing the black people who were Jewish over there in Israel, kicking them out, not allowing some of them in there. And if the word is you're supposed to be Jewish, everybody who's Jewish is supposed to come over there. But then
if you can do a genetics test and you can trace it back, a lot of the Africans that were trying to immigrate into Israel were economic immigrants that had no blood connection to the tribe whatsoever. And
that sounds like I'm white and I say so. That's I'm white and I say so. That sounds like how do they know that they didn't have any they didn't do the genetic testing on all of those people? Stop that. They did not go around doing
They couldn't do genetic testing on. You're talking about hundreds of thousands, nearly 1 million people that tried to come to the country all over.
Right. So how are you going to say that they're not ethnically Jewish if you didn't do any DNA test on them?
Well, it's not that we didn't do any. It's just that we weren't able to do DNA testing on all. I think there was almost.
Boy, you all over the place, dude.
There was genetic testing that occurred.
No, there wasn't. They didn't do genetic testing on those people. They're like, y'all too black, y'all can't come over here. That was the genetic test. You're too black.
That's an anti-Semitic trope. That's what a lot of the Free Palestine people will report to say.
What are you talking about? This stuff is in the news. Wait, stop. Stop, sir. You're being very deceptive and anti-black by sitting here denying the anti-black racism. We can pull up articles about all the discrimination that the black Jewish people go through in Israel now. What are you talking about? Like, that's you're doing I'm white and I say so.
I don't think so. I'm not saying that there isn't discrimination against black people in Israel. There is, especially with Hasidic Jews who, are can be racist. And the Hasidic Jews have the same issue in New York City, and it does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's not nearly at the same rate as white supremacy that happens here in the United States.
We didn't ask you to compare. No, we didn't ask you. We didn't ask you that. There's the racism. We hate the Negroes here, but it ain't as bad as in the United States. That's not nothing to pop. That's nothing to pop your collar to. All right, that's not anything to pop your collar to. You seem like you have a problem with acknowledging the anti-black sector within white Jewish society, sir. Why is that?
The problem with going down that path and making that acknowledgement is it opens Jews up to criticism from white supremacists who are going to use it as a way to turn black people against Jewish people. And
why practice that? Why sit here and allow? Because why sit here and allow yourself and people in your group to practice vile anti-black racism for decades and decades and decades? And we can't say nothing because a white supremacist might turn on you. That's your answer? So we should just be cool with you practicing anti-black racism?
No, that's not it, but it should be checked internally, because when you open that up, you're going to get a situation. What happens when anti-Semitism is able to run rampant? You had what happened where you had 6 million.
But you don't check black people internally, sir. Black people who say something you don't like, you make a spectacle out of them, like Kanye, like Tariq, and you open them up to anti-black racism, sir. What are you talking about?
But that's to stop anti-Semitism. So
how are we gonna stop? What we gonna do to stop anti-black racism?
You just basically said we just looking out for ours, man, and we don't care.
Too. How do we stop that? Because talking internally ain't it.
Well, then how else do you want to do it? You want to have people like Kanye? Is that what you want?
Kanye ain't got nothing to do with this conversation.
So, you just brought him up. Can we have?
I brought him up because you brought him up. I brought him up because you were talking about we need to, if we're going to criticize the anti-black racists within Jewish society, let's do it quietly. Let's do it internally. But if a black person said something you don't like, then you got to make a big old spectacle out of it. It ain't internal. You make an example out of them. But we can't criticize your
That was a wrong move by y'all.
I'm not saying that
y'all wanted to show your ass and your power to black folks.
What do you mean anti-Semitic?
Show us how much power you got against the white supremacists.
Are you saying calling out your racism within the white Jewish community is anti-Semitic?
I'm not saying, but that's not what Kanye is doing, and that's.
I'm not talking about no damn Kanye. Kanye is not the representative of black people. If Kanye is the representative of black people, is Al Jolson? Is Al Jolson? You keep bringing him up.
Not fair.
Okay, no. Right. No, because you keep bringing him up. Was Al Jolson the representative of the anti-black racism within the Jewish community?
Well, was he a representative of
Kramer.
the anti-black? Maybe you could say to some extent, possibly.
Okay. How come y'all never criticize Al Jolson? His portrayal of, he was Jewish, his portrayal of black people that went worldwide, that contributed to the lynchings of black people.
It did, and it was criticized, and a lot of the literature that comes out now, especially within the university system, is very much so against this sort of stuff. And these Zionist racists have been called out, and there is a big secular movement within Israel to create a more equitable society and to create safer standards for all people.
What about here? How are you going to make an equitable society here because of the ramifications of the Al Jolson?
People are working hand in hand with black people, and it doesn't help. How are we supposed to?
How?
Wait, hold on, Tariq. Let me say one thing, and then you can jump in. How are Jewish people? How am I supposed to be able to convince other Jewish people to get in line with black people when you literally have the biggest purveyor of anti-Semitism is a black person right now in this country?
Kanye is a bipolar clown. He hasn't harmed anybody, and nobody's taking Kanye.
His rhetoric will lead to getting genocide.
You have
that's
no.
Overt
Okay, no. You to say he's the biggest purveyor of anti-Semitism, and you have these white nationalists running around here in Charlottesville yelling, "The Jews will not replace us." You guys don't say nothing about them. These people are the ones who are actually shooting up synagogues, and the Proud Boys and all these guys running around here doing real things, and you're going to sit here and scapegoat Kanye, a bipolar rapper who nobody is really taking seriously. Nobody's doing anything to Jewish people because of Kanye. That's a cop-out.
What are you talking about? Jewish people have literally, the Anti-Defamation League, the Southern Poverty Law Center, everyone in Charlottesville that did the Unite the Right rally, that were doing the swastikas and carrying the TG torches, most of those people ended up in jail or have been sued. We have vehemently gone after those people. So to say that Jewish people haven't confronted white
really going in on those folks. They haven't gone in on those folks. The reason why these white nationalists they don't go in on those. You got Nick Fuentes running around here. Nick Fuentes, rather. He's been doing his anti-Semitism thing for years. They're just now getting on his case because he's hanging with Kanye. And this guy was directly involved with a lot of these white nationalist groups who get into these violent acts. They don't really go in on
he was pulled in on the January 6th committee. And
you don't go in on these white nationalists like you do a Kanye. You're not going.
It's dishonest to say that Nick Fuentes has the same platform with the same influence as Kanye West or Kyrie Irving or Nick Cannon or Ice Cube or any one of these.
Kanye West ain't really wielding no power.
And Nick Fuentes is?
Yes, because he's a white supremacist.
How can you say that Nick Fuentes has more power and more influence on society than Kanye West?
Because he's white. Because he's white.
What do you mean? That doesn't make sense.
Let me make it make sense to you.
He's Hispanic. He identifies as Hispanic. He doesn't identify as white. Yes, he's white passing. Fair enough.
Stop it. That's a white man and a white supremacist. And he has more power than all black people.
And he was put on a no-fly list. He's been
don't matter, and he's running around here feel good.
The problem they're having here is in communication. They're talking about power, as in influence. He's saying Tariq is talking about influence when it comes to the masses and everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's talking about influence as far as being able to make things happen or being able to shift policy because of the color of their skin. And then the white boy or the Jewish boy is talking about influence as in their voice is loud. And a lot of people are going to listen to what they say. So that's the problem in this discourse. Let's continue.
Well, what else do we do? I mean, tell me as a Jewish person what I do.
Don't sit here and act like that Kanye has some kind of power over these lowly white supremacists. Your whiteness is power.
The white supremacists love Kanye West, and they're all in bed with him. He's running around with Nick Fuentes.
He's a mascot. He's a powerless mascot.
How is he powerless?
Power. Power is the ability to have power is all about influence and protection. That's what power is. If you have influence and protection, Kanye doesn't have it. He doesn't.
Well, that's because of Jews. That's because
and he doesn't have it. He doesn't have protection.
He took away his influence and took away his power.
And then he don't have power. If somebody can come and take your money away because of the shit you say, you ain't got no power.
I would disagree with that, and it's only Jews have only acted this way because of Kanye's overt anti-Semitism. That's why they're.
And it was white. It was not Jews. It wasn't just Jewish people. Just white society in general got on Kanye's case. It was white people who are not even Jewish trying to sue Kanye now. So it was a white thing.
What do you mean white people who are not Jewish trying to sue Kanye?
Yeah, there's white people who aren't even Jewish going in on Kanye right now. The people over at Nike, not Nike. At Adidas, the people at Adidas, they're not Jewish.
Actually, a lot of them are, and the banks that finance Adidas, most of them are Jewish. If you don't think that it's a concerted effort,
the CEO of Adidas is not Jewish.
It's the CEO doesn't wield the power; it's the board of directors that wields the power.
How many of them are Jewish? How many of them are Jewish?
Most of them, I believe it's six of them are Jewish.
And by the way, Adidas was started by a Nazi, so that's why I know
it was. But it was broken up after World War II into different companies, and it was bought out. It's not. They're not Nazis running around in Adidas. That's what you're saying.
Oh, okay. Because they never go in on that. Kanye bad. They never talk about.
Why are you trying to sort of like haphazardly defend Kanye West? Kanye's been like.
Why are you practicing anti-black racism?
The real issue is white supremacy.
Why are you practicing anti-black racism by doing I'm white and I say so? Don't do I'm white and I say so. Don't I'm white and I say so, me, sir. That do not practice anti-black racism.
I'm Jewish. I'm not white. So I don't know what.
But you can still practice anti-black racism, which is what you're doing by doing I'm white and I say so.
Racism requires power. It's power. That is a pretense of it. If a black guy yells something at someone, does that mean he has power? No. Racism has to
black
do with
people
power.
are completely. We have powerlessness. We're powerless in this country.
That's not entirely true.
It is true.
How are black people
in a system of white supremacy?
White boys just saying anything.
And part of the rules of white
he
supremacy.
He just said that we can't be racist because we ain't got no power.
Bill Cosby was
they got the power. So they could be racist.
Whiteness has
but there's some of those allegations were true about it. I would say that not all of them are true. People have also dealt with the Me Too movement. There's been a lot of false allegations levied at Jewish people simply because of the money and power that they have. I mean, do you think that Harvey Weinstein really raped every single one of those women?
Oh, man. Harvey Weinstein is on video, on tape, trying to snatch some draws from a woman. So, yeah, that's not a good example, sir. Harvey Weinstein is literally on tape trying to get his in. But the thing is, you said you're not white. What's the difference between an Anglo-white person and a Jewish person physically? What do you mean you're not white?
Well, just because there are ethnic differences, there are genetic differences. If you were to try to do a genetic test,
people don't do that with it. No. Because
well, I'm trying to answer the question.
No, I'm just saying, if I see you on the street, what's the difference between you and an Anglo-white person as a Jewish person? What's the difference? If I just saw you on the street, I'm not pulling out a DNA test.
I mean, you're not. I look like a white person, but I'm not a white person.
Okay.
I don't know what to tell you. But were you trying to like?
So what's the difference?
So what's the invisible? The difference is I'm Jewish.
You said you're not white. So why do Jewish people classify themselves as white?
I don't classify myself as white. So I can't. I mean, are you asking me to speak for other Jewish people? That's like me asking you to speak on behalf of all black people, right? I mean, how is that fair to do? I can tell you what my experiences are, but how I live, right? And I'm not a white person. I don't consider myself white. I'm a Jewish person. I'm ethnically and I'm religiously Jewish. So I don't know when it's sort of coming in. And I also don't understand the degree of hostility that exists between Black people and Jewish people, in particular Black Americans and Jewish Americans, when we have a similar struggle.
So why does so many white supremacists within your community practice anti-Black racism against us then, if you don't understand the problem?
You can't be a white supremacist if you're Jewish. I don't understand the disconnect there. How can someone who is not white practice white supremacy? Tell me how a Jewish person, literally an underprivileged person that has been attacked, has been genocided.
Google Dan Burrows.
Okay. Well, just what? I don't even know who that is.
Dan Burrows was one of the leaders of the American Nazi Party in the 1960s. Okay. He was one of the people who was helping to organize bombings of Black churches around the country. Dan Burrows.
Well, are you saying that he was ethnically Jewish or something?
He was Jewish. They outed him as a Jewish person.
All Jews were behind it, or whatever.
They outed him as a Jewish.
So they found that he was Jewish and they kicked him out, right? And what did they do? The Nazis kicked him out. I'm sure he was disavowed by the Jewish community. I'm sure I could look on there.
No, he committed suicide. He killed himself once he was outed. He killed himself.
But you have deranged. So you saying that like Jewish people are closeted?
No, you're doing I'm white and I say so again. I'm saying
I'm not white. I'm not white, so I don't know why you keep saying I'm white and I say so. I'm not white.
But why? Okay, so why were there people who were classified as Jewish people who just came over and changed their last name and nobody knew that they were Jewish? They just kind of blended in. How if they weren't white? How could they do that?
There are different ethnic differences. I mean, you might think that the distinctions are minimal. But I mean, is it fair to call like a Nigerian, a Gambian, or an Ethiopian? Like there are ethnic differences.
They're still Black. They're all Black though. They're still Black.
Well, I mean, you ask the Somali if they're Black, and they might
just like a Jewish person, an Anglo-white person, a Hispanic person. They all classify themselves as white. They're all white.
But white people don't see Jewish people as white, so I don't know what your issue is. I mean, they genocided us in pretty much every single country in Europe. 6 million of us were systemically killed in the Holocaust. Mm-hmm. And so clearly, if white people believe that Jewish people were white, then why would they perpetrate this violence? At the end of the day,
but you have Milo who's Jewish, and he's a white.
He's a Catholic convert, and I don't even think he's a blood Jew. So
I don't know. So boy, y'all get right into they got to have a test and all this stuff going on. Wow. How can you? But when you meet people, you don't make them do tests. You just see them and say, okay, this person's description. If you have to describe them, this is a white person. All right.
Look, I mean, Tariq, you and I can argue about this all night. I'm going to let some other people jump into this space, but the only point I was trying to make is that in my experiences in these FBA spaces, there's rampant anti-Semitism. There's rampant anti-Semitism that's becoming popular. It's being popularized by people like Nick Cannon, Kanye West.
What did Nick Cannon say? Nick Cannon didn't say anything anti-Semitic.
No, he did, and he apologized for it.
That's just he apologized for them money from him. That's just I'm white and I say so.
It's not I'm white and I'm say so. It has to do with the fact that he's perpetrating anti-Semitism.
But okay, so let's in recap. Your whole thing is Black people are supposed to be put on a pedestal to quit if they say something that people can twist into something anti-Semitic.
It's not. If you're saying something that's overtly anti-Semitic.
But the vile anti-Black racism that the people within your community practice, there's a sector in your community who practices anti-Black racism, and we're not supposed to say anything because that's anti-Semitic by calling out an anti-Black racism.
If it opens up Jewish people to literal genocide, like getting shot up in a synagogue, then no. Figure out how to have a conversation without putting the lives of Jewish people at stake.
Okay, but you put Black people's lives in jeopardy by posting up Nick Cannon, Kyrie Irving, and Kanye as the real bigots. So that justifies anti-Black racism against us, and this is why we get killed and shot.
White people laugh at it. They laugh at it because they say, "Oh, it's funny. There's a Black person making fun of a Jew."
No, they're not laughing at it. No, they're not laughing at it. They're taking their money. They're making them cough up large amounts of money, and they're using that to demonize all Black people. So we're supposed to sit up here and get abused based on the propaganda that Black people are the real bigots because we're the real anti-Semites, and we're supposed to get the brunt of the damn abuse, but we can't say nothing about your anti-Black racism because it'll make people not like you. Is that what you're saying, sir?
What I'm saying is that if the conversation about dressing a minority of
that ain't working. No, that's not going to happen. We don't do racial double standards. We're not going to do that. Everybody's racism gets called out. You want us to practice some kind of weird racial? No, because what you want? No, because what you want is white privilege. That's called white privilege.
No, I don't. I'm not.
Yes, it is, sir.
I'm not.
We can't. You can sit here and criticize us for saying something you don't like, but we can't call out the vile anti-black racism that comes from your community because it'll make people not like you. So that's a privilege that you're trying to employ, which is white privilege, sir. We ain't going for that. No, everybody's gonna get called out. You're not going to get away with sitting up here practicing anti-black racism.
Tariq, all I'm trying to do is
all you're trying to do is practice anti-black racism.
I'm trying to protect Jewish people from being shot, from being.
And I'm trying to protect black people from getting.
So then, how can Jewish people and black people work together to address the concerns that Jewish people have of certain people within the black community espousing anti-Semitism, and simultaneously the concerns that black people have?
But how are you? You're trying to protect the anti-black racists within your community. So how are we gonna work together, sir? How's that gonna work?
No, I'm not trying to protect. I want to root out that racism.
No, you're not. No, you're
not. If it opens up Jewish people to a literal genocide. If getting rid of the racism at the behest of. Hold on. I mean, are you going to just?
No, because what you're saying is ridiculous. What you're saying is, hey, genocide them, not us. No. Nobody should be genocided, and we're not going to sit here and allow people to practice.
That's what they were saying.
We say, hey,
that's what Kanye saying from the jump. Tariq. So you can't really get on Kanye.
Justify your group.
Let me say something. Tariq likes to say Kanye's a mascot and all that, you know what I'm saying? Which I understand, you know, he ran around with white supremacists and all that, but yo, this is what he was trying to break down. That's basically how they think, you know what I'm saying? Damn. What these folks do, just don't fuck with us because, you know, ain't no too much of us. But if y'all really calling out racism and white supremacy, you would understand that some of it is being perpetuated by your own community. And it's damn thing, you know what I'm saying? How come the powerless people? Yeah, we have sellout coons and all that, but we call them out. Do y'all call out y'all coons? Y'all sellouts? That's what Tariq's getting at.
No, we're not going for that, sir. That's just anti-black racism.
That's not what I'm saying. I think
that's exactly what you're saying.
No, I wanted.
You're not calling out. You're not calling out the anti-black racists within your community that practices real racism, not just somebody saying something, not some bipolar rapper.
When someone goes in and shoots up a synagogue, it's not someone just saying something.
That ain't black folks doing that. Go holler at the white supremacists.
But it's the rhetoric being perpetrated.
No, it's not. Stop
celebrities that's leading.
That it ain't. Stop with that lie that black people are making the white supremacists racist. Stop it. Stop it. Kanye West is not making the white supremacists radical. Stop it. Blaming black people. Yeah, blaming black people for white supremacy is anti-black. Yes, you are. Blaming black people for white supremacy is anti-black racism, sir. You're not calling out the race.
So how are you going to stop Jewish people from being killed? What are you going to do to protect Jewish people?
Holler at the white supremacists. They're the ones doing it. What are you going to do?
White supremacists, tell me what white supremacist has a bigger platform than Kanye West.
Kanye West don't run nothing. White society
West
can shut Kanye West down.
He's the biggest anti-Semite in this country right now.
The
fact that so many black people are silent about it when his rhetoric will directly lead to Jewish people being genocided is insane. You cannot have an open. You cannot have an open. Tariq,
that's not true.
I will disagree about this. We can scream about this all day long. But at the end of the day,
you're just doing how white guys say so, sir. This is literally how white guys say so. This is I'm white guys say so. You're just saying.
That's not what I'm saying. Is that
what did Kanye say to get the Jewish people genocided? DEFCON 3. That's the thing. You think he said? Does that make sense? Nah, come on. Let's be real, man. That's not true. It's not true at all. Kanye didn't say anything to make the Jewish community want to kill him. So, or to make people want to kill Jewish people. You know what I'm saying? He's just talking about what's going on in the industry. Can he not speak about what's going on in the industry and where you think it's coming from? What do you think he thinks all so-called Jewish people are bad? Like, let's be real now. Don't take things out of context.
Making false accusations, saying that Kanye West is the biggest anti-Semite in the country, when you have all of these white nationalist groups out here, and you got the Proud Boys and people like that out here.
Right.
You had thousands of people in Charlottesville who were white running around with tiki torches talking about the Jews will not replace us. Right. And then they actually killed somebody. And you're sitting here talking about Kanye is the real anti-Semite and he's the biggest one. Really? That's not why not say so, sir. That's just...
You wouldn't have known who Nick Fuentes was a week ago if it wasn't for Kanye West. So,
dude, if you don't stop, I've been going at Nick Fuentes for damn near 5 years. Me and Nick Fuentes, we've been going back and forth with each other. I've been calling these dudes out. Guy, come on now, stop it. I call out all forms of anti-black racism from white supremacists, sir. That's what we do as black people. You see? And to sit here and say that it was your community who stopped white supremacy in America in the civil rights movement? Did you say that with a straight face? Peter?
I said you never even wanted to jump into the conversation. You wanted to go
there was so much to unpack.
You and I had a conversation about the slave ships, and then you stopped the conversation there. I was about to list off several Jewish civil rights leaders that played an integral role within the civil rights movement. That had it been for that, African American people would be living under Jim Crow if it wasn't for Jewish people in this country. And to this day, that is a fact. It wasn't until the 1990s that South Africa was living under apartheid. And that was, if it wasn't for the entire Western world pushing on that, and Jewish people, especially Jewish human rights activists, they would still be living under apartheid. Black Americans owe a debt to the Jewish community for the civil rights movement. If you want to,
please explain to me how.
You and I run into a myriad of civil rights leaders that you don't even choose to acknowledge. You know, all of the work that happened behind the scenes to create this equitable society, it's almost as if Jewish people are invisible to the black community. And despite all the sacrifices that Jewish people made in order to create a more equitable society for Jews and black people and other Asian people and Hispanic people, it's non-existent.
Okay.
All we do is we get our faces smashed by black.
Name who? Okay. Stop, you just rambling
and then I got to come up here, and I have to come up to you, who's 300,000.
You were rambling because you're deflecting because you're just saying some bullshit and you can't prove what you're saying. Who? I'm asking you to name who. Name these people that black people owe a debt to. Who the hell do we owe a debt to in your community? Please tell me. If you say the NAACP, man, Peter, you better not say the NAACP. Do you really want to play that game?
What about the Anti-Defamation League? You don't think the Anti-Defamation League has been around since what? The 1930s? What other civil rights movement has represented black civil rights leaders throughout the entire thing? All those.
Are you serious?
All those.
Peter, did you
really said the ADL?
I can give you numerous examples. We can talk about Dean.
Peter.
We can Martin Haber.
Peter, let's slow it down. Did you really go there? Did you say the ADL, Peter? Peter?
Yo, I'm telling you, man. People are just
the Anti-Defamation League was started because an anti-black Jewish man Yes, I'm going there. Yes, I am. They tried to pin a murder on some black people and it didn't work. That's when the Anti-Defamation League was formed, because they didn't get the chance to pin a murder on a black person who didn't do it. It was a white Jewish man who murdered a kid. They tried to pin it on a black person. It failed. And they said, hey, we need to have white privilege. We need to have the same privileges as the Anglo-white people. Then they started that organization.
That is a complete anti-Semitic lie. And in fact,
how?
Because he's been exonerated. Okay, the district attorney in Atlanta exonerated him for that. So that's completely untrue. The guy who did it was guilty, and the fact they didn't like it because the Anglos didn't like a Jewish person having a business, so they set him up, even though that black man was responsible. Regardless of
he wasn't. Leo Frank killed that girl. No, that black man wasn't responsible.
And for you to perpetrate this sort of anti-Semitism,
no, you're not going to perpetrate no damn anti-black lie, pinning a murder on a black person who didn't commit a murder, which is what they would do during the Jim Crow era. They would pin these murders and pin these crimes on black people. And Leo Frank tried to do it, and it didn't work. It backfired, and then they ended up lynching him. Black people didn't have no power, so a black person was innocent. They were really, really innocent. Yeah.
No, they lynched him because they were envious of his status in there, because they had an issue with Jewish people, especially in the South. And they lynched
like they didn't have one with black people. Like they didn't have an issue with black people. Really?
Where were the black civil rights leaders in Atlanta threw Leo Frank underneath the bus and got him lynched?
Because he tried to pin a murder on a black person.
He didn't try to pin a murder. He was exonerated by the district attorney's office, not more than 10
years later. But no,
the district attorney in Atlanta is literally black.
So what? Don't matter. That would be nothing.
So you're saying it's some sort of, it's a conspiracy theory against black people when the district attorney that exonerated Leo Frank is literally black, and you want to bring up this old anti-Semitic white nationalist
because you didn't know, because
they didn't genocide Jews.
They didn't get a chance to practice anti-black racism by pinning a murder on a black person. The black man didn't do that. Leo Frank killed that girl.
Leo Frank did not kill that girl. That's
it wasn't the black man.
It was.
No,
the
it
black
wasn't.
community didn't want their person killed, so they threw to these white wolves. They threw Leo Frank, and Leo Frank lost
because Leo Frank did.
Was innocent. No, Leo Frank was a hero
at that time,
and his legacy will live on.
And black people didn't have no power to throw anybody under the bus or nothing. Black people were getting lynched left and right down there. Black people were getting lynched left and right. They would have definitely preferred to lynch a Negro, but the brother didn't do it.
No, they wanted to lynch Leo Frank because he was Jewish and because he owned a business and because they saw him with money and they wanted to attack him. And the black community worked hand in hand with white supremacists to genocide a Jew, and that's what
no. The black community did not work with the white supremacists. We didn't want a murder pinned on us because that was a common thing to do at the time. People commit crimes and then blame black people, and the black community said no. So don't sit here and act like the ADL was some friend of black society. They weren't. Come on now, you're not being an honest man.
No, you don't want to acknowledge you have a different set of facts that you're operating under. You say the district attorney years later it's irrelevant, despite the fact that tons of witness testimonies, they reviewed literally thousands and thousands of hours of court documents and everything, and came to this conclusion. Okay, by a bipartisan group came to this conclusion.
What bipartisan group? What bipartisan group came to this? And when did they come to the conclusion?
This has been going on for over 70 years that they've been trying to get
so damn near 100 years later, they're going to say, hey, we done looked at some more evidence and hey, we're going to exonerate you. No, stop that.
No, it's because of anti-Semitism within Atlanta. Atlanta has a history of anti-Semitism, okay, in that the whole contention that has existed there because African-American leaders, civil rights leaders are unwilling to acknowledge the fact that Leo Frank was innocent. And we could go on and on. Yes, he was innocent. He was exonerated. He was not guilty, okay? That guy did commit the crime. He did rape and murder Mary Tracy.
No, he didn't.
It wasn't Leo Frank. Yes, it was. And despite that, Jews
wasn't that black
African-American community, it still helped represent civil rights.
Do you think, stop it, Peter, do you think that these folks, if a black man did it, and this black man was damn near illiterate, this man wasn't no savvy super criminal where he could cover up a crime like that. If they had any evidence that black man did it, You think they wouldn't lynch him?
Sounds like a mice and men.
They were going to lynch him. But then
So why didn't they do it? I mean, because this wasn't no savvy criminal. No, stop it. Stop. No.
Literate. He was. He could read. He could write.
He could barely read. That's why I said barely. That man was barely literate. He wasn't no super criminal.
He wasn't barely literate. That's not true.
That man was not some kind of super criminal where he could cover up his tracks and all of this stuff.
Yes, he was smart. So what do you're like perpetrating your own bad stereotypes that white people throw on you now. You're saying that, because it's like he was barely literate. This guy was too stupid to commit a crime.
Because here's the thing. Because the thing is, y'all talk, people in the dominant society, we're thugs and we're illiterate and we're ignorant until there's a crime. Then all of a sudden we're the most influential people. We have the most intelligence. Only when it comes to criminality or doing something we're supposed to do. Only when it comes to criminality, all of a sudden we become geniuses. When it comes to a crime, we know how to cover up crime scenes and hide the evidence. We become
that's not true. We're objectively looking at the facts, and you and I will never disagree on this. But the point, or agree on this. The point is that despite what had transpired between the Black community and the Jewish community, and I have my view on it, and you have yours, and I think the facts are objective, but maybe in your view they're not. Despite that, Jewish people, Jewish activists and business leaders still stood hand in hand with the Black community throughout the Jim Crow era and into the Civil Rights Movement to end it once and for all. How? What do you mean how? I gave you literally a list of 7 different prolific civil rights, Saul Alinsky, like all these people, civil rights leaders.
So who do we give credit to? So do we give credit to the ones who stood with some of us, or do we give credit to the people who helped perpetuate Jim Crow?
So give me one example of a prolific Jew, just one example off the top of your head, someone who perpetrated Jim Crow to me.
A Jewish figure. The Levitt brothers, William Levitt, who was on Time Magazine as the Man of the Year, who created the modern suburbs, the Levitt towns in this country. They were Jewish and they wouldn't let Black people live into those suburban areas. They helped perpetrate Jim Crow, and he was the Man of the Year on Time Magazine. Google that. William Levitt.
Jews weren't even allowed to live in those neighborhoods. He didn't even make that much money. He conceived of the idea of a neighborhood. He didn't benefit from that.
They made a fortune. What are you talking about?
They made some money that was limited in the Northeast. Those same communities.
William Levitt made a fortune.
Down in the South, Tariq, Jewish people were not able to live in them. Jewish people were discriminated at country clubs. They were discriminated at public swimming areas, just like Black people were, up until and through the Civil Rights Movement. That's why Jews had to go and create their own universities. They had to create their own schools. They had to create their own country clubs. They had to do everything on their own.
But you still had no problem creating communities where you emphatically said Black people couldn't live in.
That's not true. Black people live hand in hand. You can go in Pikesville and Maryland all the way up to New York City. We've lived hand in hand. And we're
no. During the Jim Crow, no, we didn't. No, what are you talking about? And you're skating over the Levitt brothers. I'm telling you, the Levitt brothers created the modern suburbs. They didn't create redlining. They didn't create redlining and all these other racist things that you're referring to, and trying to put that under the feet of 2 Jewish people who had a good idea. Not just 2 neighborhoods is anti-Semitic. You just said name a prominent one, and I just did. I named one who was Time Man of the Year, who practiced anti-Black racism openly. He wasn't anti-Black. I'm reading about him right now. What you mean he wasn't anti-Black? The New York Times, how William Levitt helped to fulfill the American dream. Levitt revolutionized home building, creating Levittown and making the dream of owning a home a real possibility for thousands of middle-class Americans. Owning a home came to be an abundant in the new American dream. That's the Levitt towns in their contracts, they specifically said they cannot give the homes to Black people. So what do you mean that's not anti-Black? He didn't create the contracts for it. Yes, he did. Designer. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Of course
yes, he did. They created the contracts in those Levitt. That's why the name was Levittown. The town was named after him. What are you talking about? All right. Well, I can't. What are you talking about? It's just making me nauseated. I can't argue. Boy, y'all be denying the stuff that your community does to us. It's so exhausting to be Jewish in this country. I mean, it's exhausting to have anti-Black racism too. And also,
the,
if you want to talk about Jim Crow, the black people who were being brutalized and having dogs sicked on them for going into stores, who owned those stores down there in the South? Who were discriminating against black people?
Oh, come on! No, a small majority of them were.
Oh, stop it! This was not
Jewish people own all this. Jewish people are covert. I can't do it. I'm exhausted at the end of the day. I keep trying to defend it. This is just no different than the other FBA spaces.
So now it's a small minority. The Woolworth, that was a small minority.
I don't even know who that is, to be frank with you.
These were some of the stores that were discriminating against the black people. Many of those stores down in the South, these were Jewish-owned stores. The anti-black racism.
Were they being forced to by white people? Maybe they didn't have a choice in it. Maybe white people said that they weren't allowed to do that. I mean, wasn't Jim Crow the law there? I mean, didn't Jews still fought to eliminate these things? At the end of the day, pretending that Jewish people didn't have any role within the civil rights movement, and that the civil rights movement would have come to fruition in the way that you perceive it, without Jewish influence and without Jewish power, is just insane.
You haven't told me what the influence of the power was. You just keep.
I talked about Saul Alinsky. I talked about the Anti-Defamation League.
Which we immediately debunked.
Well, you put up the Larry Fagin thing. And then basically discounted everything. That happened in the 1920s. Okay, when the civil rights movement came around in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s. The ADL was step in step, defending civil rights acts, paid for the legal bills, giving them legal representation to get them out of jail, to allow them to continue to protest. Okay, filing federal lawsuits against housing discrimination, pushing Congress to pass the 1968 Voter Rights Act.
It was the black community pulling their resources together, making stuff happen.
And Jewish people were hand in hand there, and you just pretend that Jewish people have no role whatsoever. They're just invisible.
There were some minimal numbers, as you might say.
See, it's always about discounting it. It's anti-Semitism is something that Jews, everywhere that Jewish people go in this country, there's anti-Semitism. It's never good enough.
And there's anti-black racism coming from the dominant society, and including your community.
And there's anti-Semitic rhetoric. Most of the anti-Semitic rhetoric right now that's being popularized in this country is being done by people who consider themselves, like black Israelite aligned, like Kanye West and Ice Cube and Kanye.
And these are people, and notice these people will zero power, and there has not been.
They don't will zero power. They will have zero power at the end of
the power of the Levitt brothers.
If they cross Jews, they will have.
The power comes from the Levitt brothers, people like that, and those were just the prominent ones. There were many people like the Levitt brothers who discriminated against black people during Jim Crow. And black people were the financial base of these businesses. They would set up businesses within black society, and we would fund them. And then when people got their money, they would use that money to build suburban areas and discriminate against black people and not allow us to go in. They were some of the people in these stores who would not let some of us go into these stores in certain parts of the South. These are the realities of what really went down. Showing one or two people who were down, a speechwriter here, somebody there. We're not going to sit here and act like they were the ones who pushed that line. It was foundational black Americans out in the streets putting in that damn work, making stuff happen. It was black folks in the streets getting their heads bashed in. My family members putting in that work, making things happen for everybody. That's where people got their civil rights from. They got it from black people, foundational black Americans in the streets, putting in some damn work, busting heads, putting their lives on the line physically. That's where civil rights came from, sir. Don't sit here and practice anti-black racism and minimize what my FBA family did by talking about one or two speech writers that might have been with Dr. King or somebody like that. You're practicing anti-black racism, sir. And people pushed us in the forefront because we were the ones helping them get more benefits and rights. We were the ones helping them more so than them helping us.
Fact.
If we want to keep it really real.
No, I mean, look, I mean, we can talk ad nauseum about this. You're saying that there were other Jewish people that also benefit in these ways. Well, I'm just supposed to take your word for granted because, I don't know at the end of the day. We could talk about the individuals. Jews are a tiny minority of the population and always have been. So the idea that all
I'm talking about the thousands and thousands of black people who were taking to the streets and making sure that we got civil rights. By the thousands that we saw on television during that time, all in the media. You're not going to discount my FBA family
And
putting in that work.
who do you think published those articles in the media? Who do you think
Oh,
made those
Lord.
documentaries? You don't think that
Lord.
Jewish people had an influence in the media for pushing the civil rights movement? If it wasn't for Jews and their relationship with Hollywood going back to the 1950s, after it was essentially bought out by white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, none of that stuff ever went into the mainstream. All the beatings and attacks over the bridge in Selma, Alabama, no one would have even heard of it because it never would have been carried in any of the publications which were run and owned by Jews.
But I thought that was anti-Semitic to say that the Jews own the media.
I'm not saying that Jews own the media. Jews have used their influence within the media to the benefit of the rest of society.
Aren't you being anti-Semitic saying that though? You said the Jews run the media. If it weren't for the Jews running the media, we wouldn't have got all that civil rights coverage. But ain't that anti-Semitic though? Right?
Jewish people fought tooth and nail for the power that they have within society, and they have managed it well. Okay, and they deserve.
Boy, you really deflected from that.
Jewish people deserve the influence that they have, and Jewish people do everything that they can to stop. Okay, the
you deflected from that, boy.
That leads to them being genocided. And
Peter,
it's perfectly natural.
but I thought that was Peter. Aren't you being anti-Semitic by saying that Jews run the media? And we got to thank the Jewish media for portraying the civil rights movement, though?
It's not. I mean, it's not all of it. It's just the majority of it. It's not all of it, but the majority of it, in fact, was influenced by Jewish people and still is to this day. And at the end of the day,
but when Kanye says that, don't y'all say he's the biggest anti-Semite?
Kanye is not saying that though. Kanye's saying that Jewish people wield their power, okay, at the expense of black people, and that's just not true.
No, I don't think he said that. But y'all say no. Y'all was saying that he's bad for saying that Jewish people run the media because that's a bad anti-Semitic trope. But
what's going to happen? What's going to happen when average working white people when Christians figure out what's going on? You think that's going to end with?
I don't know what that even means. But you just said that Jewish people run the media.
And what's the repercussion? What do you think is going to happen?
I don't know
when white working class people figure out what's going on, and they say, okay, Jewish people are smart. They work extremely hard. There is nepotism. We are somewhat insular group at the end of the day, but we don't brutalize people like other power groups. Would you rather have white Anglo-Saxon, Protestants at the reins of power in this country, or would you rather have Jews? Which, if you had to pick between either one, who would you pick?
Oh, so let me see. So if I had to choose between Ulysses Grant or
this conversation is just getting too out of control. And
no. This is what you're asking. No. Okay. So if I have to choose from Robert E. Lee, slave owner, and Judah P. Benjamin, slave owner, you're saying Judah P. Benjamin would have been a better slave owner? Peter. So you're asking me to choose slave owners? Because Judah P. Benjamin was kind of brutal.
No Jewish people don't own slaves. That's not. I'm talking about the here and now. Okay.
Oh.
We have a decision on how we want to move going forward in this country. What do we want to do? Or do you want to go back and revert back and have white supremacists, neo-Nazis like Nick Fuentes running the country? Is that really what you want? Or would you rather have it, the way that it's been for the last, 20 years or so? And it's getting better. It's getting more.
The last 20 years of black people getting their heads bashed in.
It's getting better for everyone, despite what you might think.
How better for black people? How?
At least these things are being brought. If it wasn't for Jewish influence in the media, do you think they ever would have covered, the George Floyd thing? Do you think police officers would have body cams now if there wasn't Jewish civil rights activists suing? You don't think that this has any sort of influence? You don't think that we're all fighting white supremacy together?
Yo,
you just want to wipe your hands.
So all the millions of my black family who hit the streets in this country. Insignificant. It was a couple of Jewish people who sued.
It's not insignificant in that. But
we hit the streets, man. We hit the streets by the millions in this country. What are you talking about? And we got to pop our collar to some. We got to pop. Listen, we got to pop our collar to some lawyers who sued basically for other groups because they were using. They were. Oh no, wait. Because let's go there. some of these other groups were using George Floyd's murder to get money and benefits for trans people, immigrant groups, and all of these other folks. And I'm supposed to pop my collar to that? They were using George Floyd. They were using George Floyd to get policies that protect other groups. It wasn't for black folks.
You're blaming the anti-Asian stuff that happened in New York as a result of
all over. No. All of these other, they used the George Floyd. Stop. No. They used the death of George Floyd to sit here and say, well, not only Black Lives Matter, trans Black Lives Matter too, immigrants matter, minorities matter. They used George Floyd's death in order to get benefits for their group. Also, they were setting up all of these nonprofits where they would get money in, and the black community sees none of that money. We're supposed to pop our collar to that?
I'm not. What do you mean? What does that have to do with Jewish people?
Well, all of these different groups. You keep saying that all of these people were suing and all of this stuff. None of this stuff trickled down to the black community. That's what I'm saying.
There was a lot of it, but there were a lot of Black Lives Matter activists that ended up taking that money for their own personal gain and spending on things that they
y'all throw them under. No. And that's the thing. And y'all throw those people under the bus. But where did the rest of that 90 million and all of that stuff went? We know where 4 million here, 6 million there went. There's like 80, 90 million more dollars that's unaccounted for. Did that go to some of your communities, sir? Where did that money go?
It's not unaccounted for. You know exactly where it went. And if that money hadn't gone there, it went to Act Blue. And what did that do? It prevented Donald Trump from being reelected. That's where that George Floyd money went. It went to the Democratic Party, okay, who is anti-racist, who's defending, okay, black people and Jewish people from racist Nazi Republicans.
You ain't gonna just sit here and lie now. Stop it. Now you're just trolling at this point. Now I'm not gonna sit here and let you just sit here and lie. How's it? Okay, now you're trolling.
How is that a lie? How is that a lie?
How has the Democrats protected black people?
What do you mean? Who do you think passed all of these? Every single one of these pieces of legislation that has moved us just a little bit further into the future, a little bit better off, has been the Democratic Party. Tell me how the Republican Party has defended black people and their to protect qualified immunity, to protect all these things. Bail reform, okay? We can talk about the entire judicial system, the district attorneys, okay?
Okay, first of all black people are not criminals, okay? Talking about bail reform, that whole anti-black narrative that black people are inherently criminal and everything involving the criminal justice system is synonymous with blackness is an anti-black trope. I'm talking about the average innocent black person walking around who can be killed with impunity by a race soldier. How's the Democrats stop that or help with that?
You think that if you have a police department, okay, that has qualified immunity and they go, one of these race soldiers, quote unquote, goes and perpetrates a crime against someone, it allows them to not be personally liable for that crime. So it opens them up, which makes them more apprehensive about violating someone's rights, innocent or not.
Who's been liable for killing all these damn black people?
And white supremacist police officers that do target the Jewish community, that do target Jewish people as well. So, it's the idea that that Jewish people
name the Jewish person who's been shot in the back by a race soldier and the race soldier didn't get punished. Name.
I can't name one.
Okay, Peter. Okay, Peter. Thank you, Peter. Thank you. Have a good day, Peter. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. All right, that's enough for me. Ooh, boy, the lies. That's your Democratic ally right there, guys. Those are your Democratic allies right there. Wow. That's I can't take no more lies. Whoo, boy. When he said there were 3 Jewish slave owners, okay. Yeah, right there, I just knew.
Yeah, listen. All right. So the first thing I want to say
Yep. So there you have it. 3 Jewish slave owners. That's what the man said they had, yo. Kanye's a anti-Semite because he wants this. He wants to not be controlled. He has a billionaire status, so he wants to be able to conduct his business how he see fits. But hey, nothing comes out for free, man. Everything comes at a price, man. So it's all about the price you're willing to pay at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Because, yo, that's crazy. You said, where would you rather have, the white folks or us running shit? Crazy. It's your boy, Matt Mizzle. You know my slogan. Keep it real to feel. Forget how they feel. I'm out.